All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our Wednesday Naples Mac User Group meeting. And we welcome you back this week. We welcome all of our members from all over the United States, Canada, and throughout the world. And I'm assuming we have probably 4 or 5 from England and possibly 1 or 2 from Australia. And Eckert has informed me that we probably have some folks from Switzerland. As a matter of fact, at the next meeting, if you could sort of jot down in the chat where you're from, we'd appreciate it. We're just, we get all excited when people are coming in from all over different spots in the country and the world. These meetings are every Wednesday from 11:30 to 12:45 through the 30th of June. You must be a member of Naples MUG to attend our Zoom meetings, and that's primarily for security reasons. Our classes continue to roll on. The signups are way above any year we've had. We're very excited about the member participation this year in our classes. The class on March 6th, that's not this Saturday, but a week from Saturday, is the iCloud class. We expect a record turnout for that class because that's a real issue that many of us have some trouble understanding. And we have probably one of the #1 speakers in the world who wrote a book on iCloud, Joe Kissel, who's the author and publisher of Take Control Books. And he will be covering the iCloud class. So this should be a dynamite presentation. On the 7th, which is or not the 7th, the 27th of February, which is this Saturday, we have Marilyn with us back again, and Marilyn will be covering the watch. As you know, the Apple Watch is the #1 selling watch in the entire world, and there is no other watch that's ever sold as many as the Apple Watch. And there are so many things that are going on now with the Apple Watch as far as your health and fitness, that it's kind of a critical device that most people should have. And Marilyn will be going over all of those things, and this should be a dynamite meeting. Don't forget the date change on the Zoom meeting. It was scheduled as the first class, and now it's scheduled for March 20th. And Dan Wazink is going to do that. He's the one that did the class last week on photos, which was excellent. And so I encourage you to sign up for that class. Because of the reaction to our members and our great results to the classes, we have decided to give a bonus class to our members, free of charge. A regular 2.5-hour class. They will get a free Take Control book, a free, the normal free video of the class. It's March the 27th. The class will be on managing your files, and it will be by Jeff Carlson, who wrote the book, Managing Your Files. Jeff did a meeting last September for us, and it was outstanding, and he'll be back doing Managing Your Files. We've already got over 90 people signed up for that class, so if you're not signed up yet, just notify our class registrar, Eckert, and in the subject column, put bonus class, and you'll be all signed up for this class. Talking about Eckert, Eckert's the guy behind the scenes that's helped put Naples Mac User Group on the map we're now worldwide. We have members from throughout the world. We're utilizing Zoom for all of our classes and for all of our meetings. And a lot of work went into perfecting our utilization of Zoom. And Eckert's been the guy that's been behind this and has pushed us to take advantage of this great opportunity to expand ourselves throughout the world. Just a brief thing I was reading this morning. I noticed that something came out this morning that said that Apple may be planning a new smart fabric for sportswear and more. Apple is developing smart fabric buttons that could be integrated into clothing according to a newly registered patent. In the listing, Apple notes that the tech could be used to connect computers, phones, watch bands, pendants, clothing such as hats, belts, wristbands, headbands, socks, gloves, shirts, pants, and so on. So you'll shortly be able to be clothed from head to foot with Apple clothing that will monitor your exercising and your walking and everything else. And I'm assuming, for some reason, I think it'll be along the lines of probably what Lululemon sells. That's just a guess. But that's, life never stops, development never stops, and this could be the next news out of Apple, along with the automobile. Like Sheeta mentioned before the meeting, she's returning on Wednesday, March 3rd, which is next Wednesday. And it's going to be a Q&A meeting. And as she mentioned, you can please send her your questions before the meeting. And it's a pretty easy email address, questions/answers@icloud.com. So take advantage of the opportunity to ask questions. Today's meeting, we're very excited to have our speaker with us, Alan Weinstein. Alan has been a member for, I think, about 3 years. Alan's from Washington, D.C. He's got a very interesting background he can cover if he wishes. He's an amateur photographer, and he's going to review pictures that he's taken over many years of people on buses and reflection images. And both of these intrigued me, and he mentioned it at another meeting we had with a photographer, and I thought it would be interesting if he could present today. So thank you, Alan, and it's all yours.
Okay, well, thank you, George. By way of introduction, I'm a snowbird. I come down, my wife and I come down to Naples for the winter, January through March. We didn't come this year because of health reasons and the coronavirus, but we normally come down. I'm from New York. If you look at the date, you'll see that I celebrated my 80th birthday last year. My career was in meteorology research and administration. And then after my career, I became a Washington, D.C. tour guide. I'm a proud father of 2 daughters and 1 grandson who's all of 9 years old. I'm here today to show you some of my photographs because I've been an amateur photographer enthusiast for the better part of my life. I'm going to start with pictures I've taken on buses. These are examples of a single person, a smiling lady, 2 people in the picture, these cute kids, and then multiples. But before I start, let me tell you the platform I use for this pictures. The one on the left is an example of a bus we have here in Washington, D.C., a single-decker or European guests have double-decker buses, but we only have tour buses that are double-decker. We're all single-decker. The right is the picture of what it looked like for most of my pictures. This is what I call pre-pandemic view of what the interior of one of these buses look like. You get in an entrance behind me, and you can exit in that entrance to the back of the bus. This is what it looked like during the height of the pandemic. In that case, you came in the back door. You didn't have any interaction with the bus driver. There was actually a gate there between the passengers and the bus driver, and you got to ride the bus for free. This is what it looked like on one bus during the height of the pandemic when I was the only person on the bus. As George mentioned, my motivation for this was a presentation back in December by Derek Story, in which he showed a lot of his street photography pictures. And he casually mentioned that I had a collection of bus pictures, and George was Johnny on the spot and asked me to do this presentation today. So Derek, thank you for the inspiration. I don't know if you're here, Derek, but anyway, I appreciate your inspiration for getting me started. Another inspiration that my wife brought to my attention was his famous photographer, Walker Evans, who during the Depression era made a career of taking pictures of people, and they were published, a lot of them were published in this book that came out that was well known, associated with his name. Here are a couple examples of the pictures he took. The one on the right was what I call a posed picture. This lady posed for the picture, and Evan snapped it, and it became a very famous hallmark picture of his. The one on the left at the bottom is an example of a candid picture. Evans took both posed pictures and candid pictures, as I do as well. So first, I'm going to show you a bunch of single people on the bus, a few more women than men, but a single picture. So let me now move to my sequence of single pictures. This is my lovely wife, Barbara, who's watching this from another room.
Ellen?
We don't see Barbara.
Wait, are you sharing your desktop or are you sharing just the Keynote app?
I don't know. How do I know that?
All right, so exit out of share screen. I think you're just sharing the Keynote app.
All right, wait a minute.
No. Yeah, exit out of share screen, the Zoom share screen. Press the escape key on your keyboard.
Okay, now new share or what?
Yes, new share.
New share.
You want to share your desktop.
Should I do that one?
You want to share your desktop, Ellen.
Okay.
And then you're going to click the share. There you are. All right, now we see her. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay, so the first of my single pictures is a picture of Barbara as we headed off to dinner in our neighborhood. It was in the summertime, and she's wearing a sweater because, like your restaurants down there they're usually over air conditioned, and we always have to wear a sweater in the middle of the winter in our restaurants here. But here she is, with a big smile on her face, getting ready to share a dinner with her beloved husband. I don't know who this lady is, but this was a posed picture of a lady heading off to start her day. This picture was taken in Georgetown. Some of you mentioned Georgetown, on the main street called Wisconsin Avenue, as she heads off to start her day. There's a lady on the other end of the day. She's now come back. This was late in the day, and she's coming back with a bouquet of flowers. I'll let you decide whether those flowers are for her for her family or for her boyfriend or maybe her husband. I'll let you decide where she's taking these flowers, but she's getting ready, hopefully, for a nice evening. There's another lady. This is a summertime picture of a lady in shorts. These are two pictures, well, three actually going to turn out, of people in pink. I labeled this one Lady in Pink. There's another lady wearing a light pink a coat. This was in the wintertime, but another lady in pink. And this lady at least is wearing pink shoes. This is a rare example of a person reading a newspaper on the bus. When I was a kid in the subways in New York City, if you went in the subway, especially in rush hour, everybody seemed to be reading a newspaper. They had an interesting way of folding the newspaper so that your elbows didn't crunch up against the person next to you, but it seemed like everybody was reading the newspaper. My father read the newspaper. I read the newspaper on the way back and forth from school. It was a common occurrence. If you go on the metro now in DC, oh, half the people or so are reading newspaper, not even half, a quarter maybe. Most people now are listening to music on their headphones or doing something connected with a cell phone or music. So reading the newspaper on the metro is nowhere near what it used to be. And reading the newspaper on the bus almost never happens. There's so much else to do on the bus that simply reading a newspaper is very rare on the bus. This might even be the only picture I have of a woman or a person reading a newspaper on the bus. There's a person reading a book. That's a little bit more common, but also not very common at all. I'm not sure this person's really reading it. She might just be leafing through it, but this is reading a book, a little bit more common than newspaper because a book is smaller. Here's a lady, an older lady, who is looking what I'm guessing might be her address book. Modern people don't have these little notebooks with address books or notepads. All of this is done on computers, on notes on computers these days. But this lady is of our generation, and she still has a little address book or notepad. So I thought this was noteworthy of an example of the difference in generations between young people and us, many of us anyway. Here's one of two that I'm going to show you of sight impaired. I call this blind. I don't think this lady is actually blind, but she's surely sight impaired. This was, I have to admit, this was surely not a pose picture. She had no idea I was taking this picture. This is even a more seriously blind lady. The Metro does take great care of the bus and Metro both take great care for dealing with handicapped people. So when this person, if she needed some help getting on the bus, the driver would have escorted her to the seat. Most people, though, sight impaired with their canes, can find their way to a seat. People do make room for them. This was one of my opening slides. I love this picture. She's so happy. So I call this happy. This was, again, a picture of a lady smiling. Another lady smiling, a little bit more scantily dressed, but this is summertime and another happy lady on the bus. I love to take people when they have big both smiles on their face. This was a pose picture. I did ask her and she agreed and smiled. Another pose picture. This is again a more elderly lady. Again, very happy to be on the bus, very happy to pose for me. Again, with a little bit less of a smile, but still a nice smile. This lady was not posed. This was a candid picture, dreaming about her out into the future. So I call this a dreaming picture. I thought she had such a nice dreaming expression on her face. This lady is coming home from a shopping day with a big bag full of groceries. She's obviously tired. She did allow me to take this picture, but she didn't smile because she was just too tired. But this was, surprisingly enough, this was a posed picture, but without a smile. I took this picture because this lady had such a colorful outfit on. This was, I don't think this was a posed picture. I think this is probably a candid picture, although maybe looking into his pose. But anyway, I took it because she had such a colorful outfit on. This picture I originally labeled as Lady in Red. I love this red coat on this lady. I only wish she was wearing a red hat as well, but this is a nice picture of a lady in red.
Alan, did you tell her that?
No, I actually didn't talk to her, so I'm sorry, I should have. This is a lady, obviously tired after a long day of shopping. I'm not sure she's really dozing, but I surmise that she surely has her eyes closed, and I doubt that she's really dozing. I love this picture of a wet weather lady in her yellow slicker. I love this one also. This is a lady coming home from work, getting ready for a hot date tonight. What do you think? Anyway, she's making up her face. This was obviously a candid picture. This is actually on the metro. So this is not on the buses. This is on the metro. Distinctly different appearance of the picture. This lady is probably heading off to National Airport for a trip. And again, you can see there's no windows in the background, a very different appearance, but this is on the Washington Metro. Now we get some men pictures. Nothing that's necessarily distinctive about this man, but this is the beginning of my pictures of men on the bus. This is a posed picture, believe it or not. He grudgingly shook his head yes when I said, could I take his picture? But he didn't straighten up. He's still slouched, but he allowed me to take this picture. It's not a candid picture. It's a real picture, although he again wasn't smiling and he wasn't sitting up straight. This man again is reading his magazine. Among the reasons I gave you this one is because normally when people have something to do, read or talk to friends on the phone or work on the phone, they usually go to the back of the bus in the seats further back. When they have nothing to do, when they're just taking a ride and they're resting, they tend to take the first seat available, and that's usually the front of the bus. The bus is, those seats in the front are technically reserved for handicap, but most people ignore that unless a handicapped person is sitting there. So, but the people who have nothing else to do sit in the front, and the people who have something to do typically sit in the back of the bus. So this is an example of a man with something to do. This is one of my favorite pictures. Among other things, I'm a very avid baseball fan. And when I saw this man with his t-shirt, I couldn't resist. He gave me permission for this, but whether he did or not, I would have taken this picture either way, but he did give me permission for this picture. But I love his t-shirt. Obviously, this man is, I'm not sure he's asleep really, but he's surely resting. One of the more senior men in my pictures, but surely resting. Here's an example of what I said, a man further back on the bus. I call it working. I'm not sure he's really working on the phone, but he's surely talking to somebody in active dialogue. Again, an example of a man, of a person in the back of the bus with distinctly something to do during his ride. Now, also call your attention to the upper part of this screenshot. See that yellow stripe? That's a thing you pull as you're approaching the stop you want to get off. When you pull on that cord, a light goes off and it says stop requested, and the driver knows to stop at that next coming bus stop. even if there's no passengers waiting to board the bus. So you pull on that chain if you want to make sure the bus is going to stop at the next stop. I sometimes pull on prematurely and have to apologize to the bus driver, but this is how you make sure the bus will stop at the stop you want to get off. Again, the man in the front, although it violates my rule, but he's looking through his phone list anyway. This man was getting on the bus and headed for a winter retreat, so I call it Winter Traveler. He posed for this picture, and he's had kind of a, I don't know, not exactly a smile, but it's obviously, to me anyway, that he's posing for this picture. This is a rare example of a close-up. This is not a cropped picture. It's not a distant picture that I cropped. I came right up close to this man. He allowed me to take his picture. And when he said yes, I said, could I come close? He said, sure, why not? So this was taken very within a few inches of him. So I call it close-up. He's listening to typically an example of a person listening to music or something on his headphones. But this is probably one of my very few that's a real close-up. Here's a man in a wheelchair. The buses in Washington, most big cities, as a matter of fact, have arrangements for which wheelchair people can enter the bus. When the bus pulls up and there's somebody in a wheelchair, the driver presses some buttons, a platform extends out into the, out from the bus. The platform is lowered. The person in the wheelchair wheels themselves up onto that platform. It's raised, and then the person wheels himself off at the bus level, and then the driver helps that person get back. They fasten some restraints around it so that the wheelchair doesn't roll around, and they take off. So this is how buses in most big cities accommodate handicapped wheelchair people and people with other handicaps needing special help getting on the bus. I don't think the Naples buses are equipped with that capability, but big city buses typically are. And I finished a men picture with this man, and it's my to show you that even men can wear floral shirts. So I label this picture floral shirt. So that's my singles pictures. Now I go to doubles, and in doubles, I'm going to show sequences of kids, adults, and lovers. So here's the first of the couples. This is two kids. It's always touchy to take pictures of kids, candid pictures. A lot of parents are very skittish about having their kids having pictures taken. I try to avoid pictures of kids alone, but these two kids were just too cute for me to resist. So I have to admit, I did not ask permission. My daughter in California was not happy with my taking this picture without permission, but I must say I couldn't resist. This is on the Metro of two kids. Again, I thought these were really cute kids. I'm not sure they're siblings, but they were two cute kids. I have a sequence of proud parents. This was a candid picture of a father showing his son something on his cell phone. This was a posed picture. When I saw the man, I was attracted to his St. Louis Cardinals hat because I have a friend who's a Cardinals fan, but I noticed he was with his son. So I said, could I take a picture of you and your son? Big smile, says, well, sure, why not? So this is a posed picture, but he was not looking at me. He was looking at his son. And I love that stare, that nice, not quite smile, almost naive stare of the young son. with a smudge of some chocolate or stuff that he must have eaten earlier in the day. This was a candid picture of a lady who had her son in her lap as a son relaxing or maybe even sleeping. But this is a posed picture. I saw it and didn't have time to ask, so I just snapped it. A posed picture. I love the smile on the two of their faces, and I love the T-shirt he's wearing, Darth Vader. But this is a mother and her son with a nice smile. A father and his daughter, again, a nice smile. I call it ditto because this is two smiling pictures. Not only parents, here's a senior couple headed off to what I believe would be a bus trip. Of course, this is a bus that makes a stop at Union Station. So here's a couple ready to head off on what they hope would be a fun trip, obviously luggage in hand. Now I'll give it up to you whether this lady is talking to her husband or just looking at her husband. I'll ask you whether he's listening to her or just sitting there. I didn't see her mouth moving, so I'm not sure she's speaking, but I get the feeling she's actually speaking to him and he's had his head cocked listening to her. A couple headed off on their day. Notice the lady is carrying a gift, which I assume is for whoever she's headed towards. They're just idly sitting there. They're not in conversation. They're just using the bus as a vehicle to get them to where they want to go. A very common thing. People often just sit there on the bus and just casually wait for their stop to come up. No active discussion here, just waiting for their stop to come up. Again, active discussion. Among other reasons I took this is because they were both wearing green. But in this case, I think it's pretty clear she's talking and he's listening to her. But I tell you the truth, the main reason I took this is because they were both wearing green. Here's an example of two people independent of each other, two people on the bus. They don't know each other from hole in the wall. They just happen to be sitting next to each other. Two men sitting next to, not quite next to each other, but near each other again. Independent travelers. I guess the man on the left is probably heading off on a trip. The man on the right is probably just heading for something to do downtown. But independence again. Again, this is a couple totally independent. She doesn't care about him. He doesn't care about her, but they just happen to be sitting next to each other. And here I call this one lovers. This is a couple together staring lovingly into each other's eyes. So those are my doublets. Now, I got multiples. I don't have as many multiples as I have singles and doublets, and also I didn't make separate collections. So here's the two of them on one picture. The one on the upper left is actually a different bus than the one I showed earlier. It's a bus called the Connector. It services downtown routes, and all of its seats, or almost all of its seats, are these horizontal ones, not just the front of the bus, but the whole length of the bus, meant to accommodate many more riders than the conventional buses in DC. So this is a city bus, not a WMATA bus. The other buses are part of a multiple system that serves the city and the suburbs. It's called the Washington Metropolitan Area Transport. This other bus on the upper left is just a local city bus called the Connector. And on the right is back on a regular WMATA bus, a lady and three of her grandchildren. Finally, I come to my originally last, you'll see in a minute, next to last. It's three people, three generations. The older woman, I don't think is related to the younger woman and her child. but it's 3 generations representing my generation, my daughter's generation, and my grandson's generation. You may wonder, what are the mother and mother and son looking at? Here's what they're looking at. I missed the opportunity, but just before this picture, he actually turned and were looking at them and they were looking at him. I wasn't fast enough on my camera to get that, so I got this one when he was no longer looking. But this is what the 2 kids, the mother and daughter, were looking at. That was originally my last one. But yesterday, I took a bus ride, and this is my late edition. This is what buses now look like during pandemic era. They are not as deserted as that pandemic bus I showed you earlier, but they are now, people are slowly but surely coming back on the buses and, of course, wearing masks. So otherwise, I would have probably taken this picture anyway, because I loved the way this guy was using the whole front seat to rest his leg. But mainly now is to show you what people look like riding in the buses now with their masks on. People are wearing masks on the bus. It's a rule, it's a law. People are wearing masks on buses. I might add, people are wearing masks inside supermarkets, inside buildings. We in Washington are pretty mask abiding. We do wear masks. There are exceptions, of course, but we are pretty good on wearing masks. So here's a couple of men wearing masks on the bus. So that's my bus pictures. How am I doing on time, Sheeta?
You're doing very well on time, Alan. Would you like to take a couple of questions? We have a couple of thoughts or questions in the chat. John Morgan, you posed a interesting thought or question. Would you like to unmute yourself and discuss it?
Yeah, hi Al. I'm wondering whether there's a difference in the way that we request permission for photos, perhaps in Europe and in the States. From my travels in California, I would guess it's very relaxed, but perhaps on the East Coast less so.
I'm not exactly sure whether that was a question or a comment, but when I ask people, could I take your picture, I simply say, would you mind if I took your picture? And some of them don't want it, and I don't, but I simply ask the question.
Thank you.
John, do you find that in Europe they are friendlier or less friendly about having their picture taken?
Well, when I was a kid in the 60s, everybody said hello walking up and down the street, and even on buses. These days, very little of that. Traveling on the metro, the underground in London, almost nobody speaks. Everybody reads a newspaper. It's very impersonal, and people don't like having cameras pointed at them.
Mm-hmm.
I might add, I don't want to dominate this question period, but most of the people I ask if it's okay, most of them say okay. I mean, if you don't say no, when I don't do it, the majority do agree.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good for you. Carry on doing
it. Victoria, you had a comment in the chat. Would you like to open up and discuss your comment?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I never know if my thing's set up right. I only noted that there's a distinction in America in general about what you're allowed to use as a photograph for a commercial purpose to sell or to license, et cetera. And that's true actually for buildings too. There are some copyrighted buildings in this country which you can only take personal images of. But the commercial use does require some sort of a release or authorization to take the picture. It's a big topic in the law field and in the professional photography field. So I won't say more, but it's just something to be aware of.
How would you know if a building is copyrighted or not?
What's interesting is Actually, you're not allowed to take a picture of the Eiffel Tower, but everyone does it. But that's one of them. There are some Frank Lloyd Wright buildings, I think. There's one in California you're not supposed to take a picture of. Again, this is a huge topic in the professional photography field. So that's about all I can tell you right now.
Alan, do you have any, I noticed that mothers with young kids are very, very, like you said, skittish about taking pictures. Have you had any real difficulties in that area?
Well, I mean, there are times when I ask people if they, people with children, if it's okay. You know, quite honestly, most of the time they agree, actually. It's rare that they don't, but does happen sometimes. Like I say, that picture of the two kids I showed at the very beginning, I didn't ask. I couldn't resist, but.
I find it difficult today in a lot of places to get a response from a child. You know, you see a really cute child and you comment on it. You'll make a comment to the child or smile at the child, and the child has in many cases been conditioned by the mother not to you know, even associate the fact that you looked at them.
Well, I don't normally take single kids. Those pictures, the two children pictures I had were two kids. I don't think I have any single kids.
All right, Alan, would you like to continue?
Okay. So now we talk on to the second part of the picture, the reflections part. George showed you an example, a classic example of reflection picture. Here's another classic reflection picture. It's actually a lake scene in Naples, as a matter of fact, where you see the trees reflected off of the water. This is a very common reflection picture. It's what most people think of when they think of reflection pictures. And of course, it was, well, not the same one, but it was example of this kind of thing is what George used in the introductory slide for this presentation. But I'm going to talk first about a different reflection picture concept. This is something that a photographer showed me one time on how to take a reflection picture against a glass window. You take your camera and you hold it up perpendicular. I'm giving myself away. You hold your camera up perpendicular to the window. And if you hold your camera correctly, you get a picture of the reflection and the real picture in one frame. This is out of order, so it's going to ruin my punchline. But if you look at this picture, can you guess? I can't really take a poll here, but guess, if you haven't seen the next one already, guess which one you think is the reflection and which one you think is the actual image. Here is the answer. I showed it earlier, so you probably saw it if you were quick. But the one on the left is the real town hall in Belfast, and on the one on the right is the reflection out of the glass, off the glass window. So let me go back and show you a few examples of those. So here's another one. Now this one I am not actually sure in my own mind which one is the reflection and which one is the real picture. You see that little sun shining off of the image on the left-hand side. I'm not exactly sure whether it's to give away that that's the reflection. I suspected so, but even I can't tell the difference on this one. Nor this one. Now, this I include this because it's a side street in Belfast, not a main street, and the distinctive appearance of the buildings are very, very different, very narrow street. But still a good reflection.
So this is taken looking into a window?
Well, you hold the camera perpendicular to the window, not directly into the window. I'm going to get directly into them in a minute. But in this case, you hold the camera perpendicular to the window. So you get the reflection in one half of the picture and the actual image or the actual scene in the other half. So again, I guess I didn't make that clear. You hold the camera up to the glass and you make the camera perpendicular to the glass. Here, example, and I include this one because these are trees. The dominant issue here is not the buildings in the background, but the trees. It kind of gives you the feeling that you're walking down the street with trees on both sides. That's not the case. This is a reflection picture, again, where you hold the camera up to the building and you get the reflection on one side and the actual scene on the other side. In this case, I think the scene is on the right and the reflection is on the left. But it looks like you're walking down the middle of the street with two trees on either side. But the giveaway is that thing in the middle, which is the part of the window that's holding the glass.
Oh, okay.
Now, this is what happens if you don't hold the camera immediately directly perpendicular. This case, I took this picture and I didn't do it right, and the camera lens was not perpendicular to the window. So I got more on one side than the other. You can't see it quite as well in this one, but this next one in San Francisco is clearly the case, where the part on the left shows you the San Francisco Tower, and the image on the right doesn't include that tower because I didn't hold the camera absolutely perpendicular to the window. I'm human, I do make mistakes sometimes, but I'm including this as an example of how to do it incorrectly, if you like. But this case, the camera was not held perpendicular to the window, perfectly perpendicular. Now here, George, you were talking about what happens if you look directly into a glass window. This is no longer holding the camera perpendicularly. In this case, I'm looking directly into a glass window. In fact, it's not a complete glass window. It's made up of these panes. This happens to be at the arena stage in Washington, D.C., if any of you have ever gone to the arena stage in Washington. And I include this because of these glass panels, it makes the picture kind of look pixelated. But this is the first example of what happens if you look directly into the window, not perpendicular to the window, but directly into the window. And this is a reflection of what was behind us. Another one looking directly into a glass. In this case, it's not that pixelated panel-like glass. This is just a glass wall of a totally glass building. Here's what happens if you're a little bit off to the side in that picture and you don't get only what's directly behind you, but what's next to it as well. Now this one, I'm going to do a little game. This one I took because I didn't want the building, I wanted the clouds. So I'm going to crop that, I'm going to crop that, and I'm going to show you that's why I took this picture. I took this picture, but I showed you the other thing, which was the original picture. And then this is the process picture where I don't care about the building. I care about the clouds that are reflected off of the glass. And as a matter of fact, as a bonus, the street sign is in there, so I can even document in the picture where it was taken in Washington, D.C. But this, again, was not the building, but the glass. I show you this one, and I'm going to ask you to just hang on with me and bear with me. This is a reflection of a building. This is the building and the reflection. and you see the reflection is distinctly distorted from the building. And why? Because this was taken off of the window of a car. See that car and see the window reflected in the car. I aligned this picture in such a way that I was able to get this picture through the window of this car. This is, again, a distorted picture of the building taken through the window of a truck in this case. But the curved window of the vehicle, the car or the truck, makes the image distorted. Obviously, this is not a curved building. This is supposed to be a real building, taken in a reflection off of a truck window in this case. Okay, so these are reflection pictures, again, facing the windows. Now we come to nature pictures. These are what most people think of when they think of reflection pictures. So I can't do a reflection picture sequence without some traditional ones. So here is a swan in San Francisco, in the Japanese garden in San Francisco, animals reflected in the water. This was one of my earlier ones I showed in my cover graph. This happens to be a lake scene right there in Naples. I'm not exactly sure what lake it is, but it's a lake scene in Naples. Here's again back in the Japanese garden in San Francisco. This is a pagoda. This is not really quite nature. This is a person-made object, but it's a full-blown reflection off of a lake. Here's some scenes, in this case, on a river in China. A scene of the exposure on this is not great. So this is not a terrific reflection picture, but I'm going to do it now to give you an example of what the full picture looked like. And then here is a close-up, and I include this one because I wanted to make you aware that the ripples in the water break up the reflection of that mountain. So the highlight here is the rippled nature of the reflection. Here's an example of a reflection in a stream where the distortion is due to different current. In the middle of the picture, the current is probably not moving at all because it's close to the shore, or maybe from right to left. In the lower part, the current is going the other way from left to right, and it's distorting the tower because of the different current in the water. This is another, I'm not sure it's the same tower, but I show you this as an example of where you should keep people in the picture once in a while, so it gives you some proportion of the size of the tower compared to the people. You can see the tower is much, much bigger than the people. Here's a canal scene. The water is much murkier, and so the reflection is much, much murkier. Now here's a bunch of what I love, I call bridges pictures. You're in a boat and about ready to go under this bridge. And so you get the reflection, you get the bridge and the reflection that's kind of like a circle to be where the boat will be going through. Another one on a canal. Again, the boat is about ready to go through this opening. I think we're about ready to go through it, although I can't be certain. We haven't gone through it and looking out the back. But anyway, this is on a canal. This is from the shore of the canal. I'm not on the boat. I'm actually on the shore. And and again, I took this picture because it was the green sort of stuff in the water. This is so this is taken from the shore where we're standing. And this is not a bridge picture, but this is Elephant Rock. Again, the same concept of an opening, but this is not a bridge. This is actually a rock. Here's an example of a reflection in a polluted environment, both air pollution and water pollution. The reflected, both images are really very blurry. because there's so much pollution here. Again, this was in China. Here's the beginning of a more wide angle or panoramic view of the similar kind of thing, a very murky, polluted environment. Here's the first of two panoramas. In this case, I didn't actually pan the camera. I had a wide angle lens on the camera, so I was able to get this whole panorama in one frame. But here's an example where I actually had to do a panorama. On my camera, I have the capability for setting in pan mode, and you start on the left and you pan to the right, and you get the whole image in one thing as you move the camera across. I like this one in particular because the trees kind of frame the picture a bit. But this is a panorama reflection picture. Okay, let me go back to my, so we have nature, we have landscapes, and now we have nightscapes. Again, this is China. This is an example of a reflection picture at night. You're going to see a lot less, you're going to see these things are a lot murkier at night because the lens has to be open, and you need to hold the camera very steady. This one, I think I was able to hold the camera reasonably steady. This case, I didn't do that much steadiness, but there's a reflection at night of a building. This is a panorama reflection, and it's clear now that I couldn't keep the camera steady because I had to pan around. So these are blurred, but this is a panorama reflection. Okay, now we go, I think I'll just stay there for a minute. Now we go to what I call novelty shots. This is a shot taken on the Great Wall of China as a reflection in the lady's sunglasses. This is a Western lady. My experience showed that the Chinese tourists don't wear sunglasses, I might add, but this is a Western lady, and I got up right up close to her, and I got a reflection of the Great Wall in her glasses. This is an advertisement in an airport again in China. An advertisement in the airport. Another advertisement in the airport. This time they're selling a product, not the tourist attractions for that city. This is a reflection of a lady singing a religious song on a canal in China, and for reasons that I don't really understand, she came out pretty clear in the reflection, but her boat didn't show up at all. But the idea was I got her reflection. She's singing a song on a canal in China. Here's opera singers in a Chinese opera. Again, I took this because I thought it was really particularly colorful, and they happened to be in front of water during this performance. I include this one because it's all Chinese writing, and I'll tell you folks, the reflection looks just as Chinese as the real picture. I don't understand it in the real picture, and I surely don't understand it in the reflection. I now finish with the reflection picture, finishing up with my lovely wife again. Here's an elevator in Belfast. So that's my the last of my reflection pictures. So that's all, folks, reflections and busts. So I'm now again open for questions. Again, how am I doing on time, Sheeta?
You're fine.
You're doing fine. Conrad, did you want to make a comment about what you put in the chat?
No, it's just that I found a polarizing filter very useful to either eliminate reflections or to accentuate them, depending on how you rotate the filter. And I use it very frequently. You know, the reflections from an automobile surface can have a lot of glare. So if you want to take a good automobile picture, rotate your filter to eliminate the glare. And I'm a polarizing filter advocate.
Okay, well, that's a great idea. If you have a regular camera, virtually all the pictures I showed here were through my iPhone, and I don't really know quite a way to put a polarizing filter on an iPhone. Does anybody know how to do that?
I'm sure there's a way. There's all kinds of attachments and gadgets you can actually put on your iPhone to make it more DSLR-like. But thank you, Conrad. So Alan, you can go ahead.
Conrad, I'm sorry. The polarizing, is that, what kind of a filter is that?
It's called polarizing filter.
Okay.
And it just fits on the front of your lens and you rotate it.
Okay.
All right, all yours, Alan. Alan, did we lose Alan? Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here, yes.
Oh, all right, go ahead. It's all yours.
I'm finished, that's it.
Oh, you're done. Oh, okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were taking a pause. Does anyone have any further questions for Alan? If you do, go ahead and unmute your mic and ask questions. All right, I don't see any more questions. George, you want to take it?
Any photographers out there that have any, that take any pictures of reflections or bus pictures that have anything to say? Like
Go
Bob
ahead.
Kennedy, Conrad, any of
Go
that?
ahead, Bob. Bob has unmuted. Go ahead, Bob.
I might comment on that question of polarizing. I'm not 100% sure, but there's a company called Moment. What that company does is makes the case for the iPhone a lens holder. And it has various lenses, both telephoto and wide angle, that you can very easily and conveniently attach to your iPhone, because the lens mount is right on the part of the iPhone's protecting cover.
The case.
I don't know if they have polarizing filters or not.
I actually have one of those attachments that I sometimes use on my iPhone. I find it very hard to control focus and aligning it correctly with that thing that sticks out the end. But I do have that, and I use that occasionally.
Victoria, you had a comment or a question?
I was just going to say that I tend to take a lot of reflections. Alan's are very nice, and sometimes you don't want to eliminate reflections. It's sort of a choice. But water, for example, I have a lot of reflections from a trip to Venice, where the water is really still at times. You get it before all the gondolas go through it, and that's really quite interesting. It's reminiscent of his picture of the building in the car top, the shiny car top. So I was very happy to see and impressed with his work.
Thank you. I appreciate that comment.
Victoria, do you have any of those pictures easily available to show us?
Yeah, I do. Not immediately today, but I could do it.
Okay, but I mean, you don't have a,
Well,
you could show a few today.
I have, let me see if I can find one at least, and I'll put it in the chat. There's enough time.
Okay.
Okay.
That would be a very interesting time in a meeting, George, to have photographers who would like to show some of their images, you know, like Alan. That would be a very interesting topic to have for us.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, actually, Alan had suggested that. Probably was a good idea. But I thought it was a little late. But that could be an interesting meeting to put together where we do, if you talk about reflections and organize it like Alan did, and then have different photographers show different pictures.
Did I show?
Derek might be somebody we would invite back because he probably has examples that he could show as well. Remember that Derek being the man who was my inspiration for my presentation.
George, I did once in the library, but I don't remember whether it was for MUG or for the library, my Yosemite presentation.
No, you did it for us.
I did for you. Okay.
There were quite a few reflection pictures in there, were there not?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Alan, have you been out to Yosemite?
Oh yeah, I've been to almost all well, not all, but quite a few national parks. Yosemite, I actually don't remember having any reflection pictures. Yosemite, I have a lot of landscape pictures, big dome and things like that. Water, that big giant waterfall. I would be curious to see Bob's reflection pictures. I don't think I have any reflection pictures from Yosemite. I'd be interested in that.
Gerald has a question about how does a viewer show pictures from its own camera? It would be the same as what Alan is doing right now. You would just share during the Zoom presentation and you would see, we would see your pictures. All right. Any other questions?
Alan, I can you can send me your email and I can send you some samples.
Okay, I'm not sure how it would.
We, Bob, didn't we, when was that meeting?
February, I had a meeting. No,
Oh, the
February was about iPhone.
No, the Yosemite meeting. I can go back and try to find the, Alan, I can try to find the video that we recorded of that meeting. Of course, Bob always had some frustrations because, or no, actually, he brought his own projector because the projector that the library had did not show good color. Didn't you use your own projector?
No, the library has two projectors.
Okay.
The library has the good projector. I asked them to put the good projector up.
Okay.
I have a reflection photo for you if you'd like to see it.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen. This was, let me, all right. And this is one of my favorite places in the whole world. Can you see the image?
Yes, absolutely. That's a nice. Did you take this in panorama mode or in wide angle mode?
It's in wide angle.
Yeah.
And
nice.
this is a photograph of the observatory, Anna Scripps Observatory at Belle Isle in Detroit. And these are, Belle Isle is one of the most beautiful places in the world. And when you see a lot of images of Detroit, they just don't show you a single one of Belle Isle. I go to this place every year. I do a photo walk and take people here and give them the history of Belle Isle. It has several great design features. It has the only saltwater aquarium in the United States. It has one of only 2 marble lighthouses in the United States. The aquarium was designed by Albert Kahn, and Belle Isle was designed by the same architect, landscape architect, who designed Central Park. So I took this, I love this place. It's an absolutely wonderful place. So I didn't mean to give you a history of Belle Isle, but I wanted to show you this photograph, this reflection. If you ever come to Detroit area, Belle Isle is a place to visit.
Sheila, I have one suggestion.
Yes.
This picture. I would duplicate it to begin with before I messed around with it. But after you duplicate it on the copy, I would crop to the left of the tree that's immediately left of the observatory over to the right-hand end. And you would get the observatory and you would get it framed with that tree. And I think it would be a little bit more dramatic. It wouldn't be panoramic, but I think it would be a little bit more dramatic. And you would get the observatory in the left portion of it, the rule of threes apply there. So I think if you crop this one, it would be even a more dramatic picture.
I think it's pretty darn dramatic right now. Thank you.
It wasn't meant as a criticism. This was not
Right.
meant as a.
No, I get it, but
I think so too.
Yeah, you'd have to go to Belle Isle to see why I left all of that there. Belle Isle is now controlled by the Department of Natural Resources. And there is so much greenery and architecture and wildlife and everything else there that cropping that out to just show the observatory would not give you the full impact of what Belle Isle is. So I get you. I thank you for your comments, but yeah, that's just my take on it. I get it.
Okay, well, everybody's different.
That's right.
And
Is,
one third is not a rule.
Yes, it's not. It's a rule, but it's not a rule you have to follow all the time. Okay.
Did
I
Mitch
have
have a comment?
I have one to share.
Go ahead.
All right. Let me share my screen. Okay, can you see it?
Yeah, that's
Yes.
very nice.
I took that picture probably 6 months ago. I was out for a walk. I did edit it with one of my favorite editing filters, but I really like the fact that, you know, you get the palm trees, you get the clouds, and you even get this grass, and you're getting the reflection of the grass again right here.
Yeah, that's very nice. Very nice indeed.
Okay.
Yeah,
just
maybe-
thought I'd-
Maybe that would be the theme that we could use where we would have multiple people volunteer to show their pictures, would be to continue on with this reflection thing, because it just, each of these pictures are so special.
I think a lot of people have reflection pictures in their cameras. So, you know, one devoted to reflection pictures in general from the whole group, I think would be very nice.
All right, we have 4 minutes. Do we have any other questions? Any other images anyone would like to show?
Mitch, I'll bet you took that picture at Naples Botanical Garden, because I have the same one.
No, I took that picture in Windstar where I live, which is close to Botanical Gardens.
Oh,
Conrad, can you show us the one you got at the Botanical Garden?
but now I can't, but I recommend that as a great place to take pictures.
Right, actually, probably 20 years ago, when I first joined the group, we did a photo walk, and we did it with Mike McGuire, and around downtown Naples, and it was a lot of fun. But now we would have to probably have it in Europe, or you know, so we could have all of our members from all over the world attend. So maybe, Conrad, can you organize the first NMUG photo walk worldwide?
We'll try.
All right.
We'll make it a Zoom meeting. Well, thank you, Alan. Thank you very much. It's interesting to see how, I mean, we do have quite a few. I guess everyone that has an iPhone takes a lot of pictures, and photography, I think, is gained in popularity when you really think about it, because it's such an easy thing to do today. with our iPhones, and we get such quality, nice pictures.
I spend more
Yeah.
time, I
And
spend
the
more time processing my pictures than I do of taking them. So I mean, photo processing is a very time consuming thing, but
When you say photo processing, are you talking about the manipulation with Photoshop and things of that
well, I
nature?
don't use Photoshop as much as other people do. It's too complicated for me, but Preview has a lot of capability. Photos, the app called Photo has a lot of capability for enhancing. Cropping, of course, can be done in just virtually any application, but between cropping and image processing to bring out details is a very time consuming thing, but it's rewarding. But the key thing is duplicate the original picture. Don't mess around with the original. Duplicate first and then do all your imaging on the duplicate, and then keep the original and the duplicate. You can always,
And with the iPhone 12 now, we'll have the raw capability
Yeah.
where you cannot destroy your original, even if you wanted to.
Mhm.
And you have tremendous flexibility to what I don't call editing, but I call interpreting what you have captured.
yeah, I'm far from an expert on photo processing. I'm really quite amateurish, but I'm sure there are people in this group that are much more experts on processing.
We have Gerald who wants to show some of his reflection images.
Oh, great.
Gerald, do you know how to share screen?
Does that work?
Yes, that works.
Let's
Still
see.
there?
This
Okay.
one,
Now he's got to share his screen. Okay, there we go.
Oh,
Beautiful.
how's
All right.
that? Can you
It's
see that?
beautiful. Yes, we can see it.
oh, I love sunset pictures. They're really nice.
Mhm. Yeah, I think we should
Where,
have a meeting where our members show their images. These are both beautiful.
Especially a whole collection of sunset pictures. I mean, sunset pictures are really dramatic.
Gerald, where are these pictures taken?
These were taken at Moss Landing, California. On
Great.
Christmas.
Wonderful. Okay.
And you don't see a lot of the reflection, but I mean, you can understand that it's there, and that's part of the image, I think. Okay, I have a whole bunch of birds and landscapes and stuff like that I could put together if you want to do something like that later.
Yeah, that'd be a great idea, Gerald. And
Alrighty.
we'll keep in touch with you. And that's terrific. That's how.
I can do one, George, on processing now in photos.
Okay.
It's almost as flexible as Photoshop was a year or two ago. And a lot can be done in there.
I would be most interested in that. Most interested.
Okay, George, it's 12:46.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Very, very good meeting, Alan. Stimulated a lot of conversation amongst the group, and very enjoyable. Thank you very, very
Great
much.
idea, that 90 degrees camera.
What was that?
Great idea with the window 90 degrees with the camera.
Have you done that?
No, that's new to me. Thank you, Alan.
You're welcome.
All right, everyone, can you unmute yourself and thank Alan?
Oh, thank you, Alan. So artistic.
Thank you, Alan.
Thanks, Alan.
Thank you, Alan.
Very much, Alan.
Very interesting.
Thanks, Alan.
Thank you. I enjoyed it. I'm glad you did too.
Yes, we did very much so, Alan.